Ambika Satkunanathan was 9 years old when anti-Tamil violence broke out in July 1983 here in this Colombo suburb.
We were helped over the wall, over a ladder. Also, our grandmother was with us at the time and she couldn't walk properly either. So we had to jump over the wall into the house behind us because that was a Muslim house. And while we're jumping, we can also hear sounds of chaos.
Her family hid in this house up the road before moving to a refugee camp and then shipped out to Jaffna with hundreds of others. This is what they were hiding from. Government-backed mobs hunting down Tamils, using voter lists, torching cars, homes and businesses. On 23rd July, 13 soldiers were killed in Jaffna, where they were stationed to fight an emerging separatist movement. The arrival of their bodies in Colombo for final rites sparked anger and violence that spread throughout Colombo and other parts of the country. Many believe the violence was planned. The International Commission of Jurists said the suspicion is strong that this organized attack on the Tamil population was planned and controlled by extremist elements in the government UNP party. Some reports go as far as to allege that a member of the cabinet was actively involved in planning these attacks. Over 400 Tamils were killed, tens of thousands left homeless, 17 major factories and hundreds of small businesses were destroyed in a week-long marathon of violence and looting. Then President J.R. Jayawardena took 3 days to react. When he did, he threatened to proscribe any organization supporting the division of the country. He did not condemn the violence. That pandering to the country's Sinhala majority was part of the problem.
This is failure to recognize that we are a plural society. We should recognize that and appreciate it. That has become, I think, one of the biggest contributing factors to our downfall.
The riots prompted tens of thousands of Tamils to migrate and led to a major escalation of the 26-year conflict between government troops and Tamil tigers fighting for a separate state.
40 years have passed since the violence when places like this in the heart of Sri Lanka's commercial capital and many others were set ablaze and thousands of Tamil lives were torn apart. Observers say not much has changed and Tamils who stayed behind made to feel that they do not belong here. Minelle Fernandez, Al Jazeera, Colombo.
Minelle Fernandez joins us now from Colombo. So, Minelle, given everything you mentioned there in your report, is Black July being marked in any way?
Not in a major way when you see the scale of what happened 40 years ago. I mean, I'm standing, if you notice, just behind me, the buildings, actually the buildings where you saw black thick smoke billowing in my package from archives. But if you look at people around, nobody really, at the moment, is marking the fact that 40 years ago there was complete mayhem on the streets. And even for the Tamils, they've tried to put it behind them and move on. In fact, it was very surprising to me when I was working on this package that very few people wanted to come on camera and speak about their experiences. So there are 1 or 2 art exhibitions, a few events, but on a very low key.
40 years on, what do most victims of the violence want the most?
Well, for many of the victims, I mean, you saw some of the footage in the archives and the newspaper articles. It was just that completely unexpected sort of attack on people, on houses, on homes, unexpected, you know, they said unwarranted. So these were a lot of the Tamils that faced the violence were outside the north and east. These were people of the plantation communities up in the hill country. These were second, third generation Indian Tamils who had obviously sort of amalgamated into Sri Lankan society, that had come down as businessmen many, many years ago. For many people, you know, this violence which robbed them of everything, all of their possessions, they want justice, at least for people to acknowledge what happened. Only one president in 1994, Chandrika Kumaratunga, acknowledged and apologized for the violence, but by far and large, no one has really addressed what happened and what the root causes were.
And do people feel that today's challenges, many of it, is the legacy of Black July?
Well, you cannot get away from the fact that what happened 40 years ago shaped the direction of this country in terms of not just what happened to the Tamils as a group, as a community, all the different levels of Tamils that it affected. Like I said, the plantation, the Indian Tamils, the Jaffna Tamils, that then went on with that separatist movement under the Tamil Tigers to wage a 26-year war. But obviously, there was degradation, there was poverty in the north and east because of that long-drawn conflict. And Sri Lanka, in terms of its potential, has really been held back by this violence and the legacy of that Black July, as well as other violence that has peppered this country's history.
Thanks so much. Minelle Fernandez there.